Well, good Wednesday afternoon, everybody. My name is Chris Halicke. Welcome to the Southside Beat. Corey Crisan will be here soon, hopefully. Um, Welcome everybody who's watching live on YouTube. We really appreciate you guys tuning in and watching. Obviously, with Corey, he's working on the South Side right now. Player availability is coming later in the day than expected. So hopefully we get him, Corey, to join us today to kind of fill us on what everything that's been going on. I do know that George Pickens talked. I know that Najee talked. I know that Chooks talked this morning. Just based off of what's been, and actually here you go. If you have your notifications on, George Pickens, I was happy, if anything, after Thursday's win. That's a notification from our Steelers feed on DK Pittsburgh Sports. If you aren't subscribed, you get to be part of the community and everything. But even then, the app's free, the content's free. Absolutely, yeah, do it, download it. Yeah, it's free to do so. Joe, appreciate the question, man. How the kiddo's doing? A little better. My son's temperature got up to like 104 yesterday, or last night. So, obviously, when the temperature gets that high, you're starting to be like, all right, we're almost literally playing with fire here. But no, they're both acting a lot better today. I appreciate it. Still not out of the clear yet, or not in the clear yet. I can't. I'm Michael Scott sometimes when it comes to my cliches. But still not in the clear yet. I think my daughter is ahead of my son a little bit because she got sick first. So I appreciate you guys asking that. Yeah, a bunch of fluids, lots of water, orange juice. The big thing with my son that I'm noticing is that he's already dropping weight from it. So it's like, yeah, food. I'm about to go to Whataburger later, get him a chocolate shake. Like, we need to get some calories back in you. Where's the other dude? Corey. He is working on the South Side. Like, literally, like, this is the South Side beat. He is doing beat work on the South Side right now. Hopefully we'll get him to join us eventually. It's not just like, oh, as soon as I'm done, I can hop on. The internet's bad over there, so he's got to try to find a spot. And now we have another hurdle. Apparently, there's some sort of event going on the inside the indoor facility, so he's got to find somewhere else to try to join us. So hopefully he does. I think he will, but if he doesn't, it's understandable. There's a lot of hurdles that we have to kind of overcome today. But we definitely wanted to bring you a show today. And I think the thing that I really wanted to lead off with, I know you guys. Swan, what are you calling me out for? Yes, I will be getting a shake for myself, but I will be getting it primarily for my kid. No, so the main thing I want to kind of lead off with today, obviously, was Chooks talking this morning. So Chooks is pretty much saying like he expects it to be like it was this past week, and when a player kind of already admits that, especially when they're listed as an or starter. Like right now, technically, Smith asking a question, any thought on making the South Side beat? Probably not, because I think anybody outside of Pittsburgh might not understand. Maybe. Matthew, appreciate the concern, buddy. I thank you. A Steeler girl kind of bringing up, hey, Chris, any truth to Chooks being benched? We're talking smack about Kenny's play and leadership. I don't know about that. I'm not there, so I'm not going to try to guess on what's being said, what's not being said. I'm not going to go off of any kind of conjecture that's going on social media. I'm not doing that. I'm not playing that game unless I know for sure. If I can put my finger on it, when it comes to actual facts, I'm not going to speculate. But listen, when it comes to this Chooks thing, whenever a player is listed as an or starter, if I'm the player and I'm like essentially listed as a co-starter with somebody, like, of course I'm going to be a good teammate, and if I'm not the guy in there, I'm going to support the guy who's in there. But like during practice and stuff like that, like you better bet this is a competition. I'm going to show that I should be the guy taking the field. And when a guy like Chooks is already pretty much saying, yeah, I expect it to be like it was last week, it almost sounds like it's kind of waving the white flag already. And so I'm not saying that's what's happening. I'm not saying that's his mentality, but that's what I get from it, right? And so that's why, I'm kind of like, listen, all right, this might be the actual start of the Broderick Jones era, whether it's at right tackle, whether it's he eventually moves over to left tackle, whatever, just Broderick Jones as a starter. So it looks like this rookie class is starting to really kind of establish themselves. And it happens halfway through the season. Joey Porter Jr. now officially the starter ahead of Levi Wallace. Keanu Benton stepped in a huge way while Cam Hayward was out. Didn't always show up in the box score on the stat sheet or anything like that, but had a lot of really good moments. A good amount of the time, whether it was in run defense or pass defense, he's getting 4 hands on them instead of 2. That's always your job as an interior defender. Take up as much space as you can. Take as many of those guys as you possibly can so that you can free up the edge guys so that they can do their job easier. And now Broderick Jones really looking like he's now going to be the guy. And based off of his 2 starts, I have every reason to believe that, listen, they're playing the Packers this week, not as strong of a team. If he has another good start, it's just more and more momentum for him. So good for Broderick Jones for getting off to that kind of a start and taking advantage of every opportunity he's been given. I think that's all Mike Tomlin really asks for his rookies, especially guys who have come in for the first time and haven't been through this entire process before. He really challenges them. Take advantage of every single rep that you get, and he makes them hungry. And so that when they get those reps, they take full advantage of it. And Broderick Jones has done absolutely that. And good to see for sure. Really, really good to see. Brent asks, hey Chris, who should our third wide receiver be? I just don't think Robinson is doing it. I think we should draft one next year. I'm always up for drafting rookies, just to answer the second part of that question. I'm always up drafting rookies. Of course you draft rookies. I'm always for drafting receivers. Always. The Steelers are phenomenal at drafting and developing receivers, finding talent at receiver. All for drafting these guys. Always. I do think maybe higher rounds, like first and second round, I'd still rather kind of address the trenches or maybe other areas where they need to be a little stronger. But third round, fourth round, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's usually where the Steelers have typically had a bit more success with guys who aren't drafted in the first round. They've hit on a couple of them over time. Santonio Holmes is obviously, he turned into a Super Bowl MVP. You can't take that away from him. But Hines Ward was a 3rd round pick. Antonio Brown was a 6th round pick. You go through the recent history for Steelers. Most of the receivers aren't 1st round guys. So yeah, all for that. Third wide receiver right now for me, I would prefer to see Calvin Austin. I think he does need to become a little bit more of a polished route runner. I also don't think, primarily you'd like to see him work out of the slot, but he might not be big enough to sustain a lot of snaps out of the slot. So if Calvin Austin III is on the field more often than Allen Robinson, then maybe Deontay slides into the slot for certain plays. Maybe Pickens slides into the slot for certain plays. Whatever it is, you got to kind of find ways to mix and match a bit. I don't think Allen Robinson should not see the field anymore, but I'd really like to see more of an uptick with Calvin Austin. Matt Williamson wrote a really good War Room piece this week on the Steelers needing a third pass catcher. Calvin Austin III was one of the guys that he mentioned. Pat Freiermuth, when he comes back, obviously needing to find a way to get him involved in the passing game, because before he got injured, he just wasn't being utilized nearly enough. Yeah, and James brings it up. Calvin Austin III would be hurt in no time in the slot. I mean, it depends on how you use him. If you're having him constantly run over the middle of the field, yeah, it's only a matter of time before he's blown up and he's but there are other ways. If you're able to run certain concepts, for example, Steelers love running shallow cross. That's an old school concept that they love running. Kenny likes to run it. Why can't Calvin Austin III be the guy who runs the drag over the middle? especially if it's against certain defenses. Why can't he be the guy who runs the drag over the middle, especially if it's going to be man coverage? He's going to outrun the guy who's covering him most likely because he's fast enough. Have him do that kind of stuff out of the slot. You don't need to have him do the deep post where he's going to get killed by safety over the middle. So yeah, that's I like to see Calvin Austin III kind of be able to bounce back and forth, sometimes out of the slot, running the occasional jet sweep. I know how everybody feels about jet sweeps, but you know what? They work more often than you think they do. I'm not saying run them all the time. But when you do run them, that's what Calvin Austin's there for. Have him run the drags when you run shallow cross. Just do different things like that protect him out of the slot. But then also you can line him up outside and say, dude, just go run. I'll throw it out. I'll throw it out there. You just run under it. All right. Let me try to get to some more questions here. Robitussin and Chris. Yeah, we are. So they're on Tamiflu now. Doctor gave him Tamiflu, and I think I'm already starting to see like progress there. So it's good. Bob says this Chris Solo show is more like South by Southwest speed coming out of Texas. Man, I'm nowhere near Austin, other than the fact that I'm in the same state. That's funny though. That's a good one. Yeah, Matthew says I like Jones right tackle better. He looked good last week. I mean, listen, I mean, gotta have the guy who's playing better. And right now, based off of what I'm seeing, Broderick Jones is playing better than Chooks is. Now I would also say Broderick Jones is playing better than Dan Moore is as well. But Broderick Jones can't play left tackle and right tackle at the same time. Cloning is not a thing yet, and if it is, it's highly illegal. Just ask Arnold Schwarzenegger about it. That's the second time I've made a 6-day reference on this show now. That's interesting. Let's see. Hey, whoa. Hold on. We might have a Corey Crisan in the house.
This might be the world record for jankiest setups of all time. Hi, Chris. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Are you on your hotspot on your phone?
On the hotspot? I'm in the car.
Hey.
Because there is a event going on in the indoor facility at the UPMC Rudy Sports Complex today. So this is like okay res Corey in the car. I got the window down so I don't hotbox myself. This is truly beat work going on here today. What did I interrupt?
You didn't really interrupt anything. We're kind of, I'm just, obviously we're having give and take here. But we already hit on the Chooks stuff with Broderick Jones this morning. It almost kind of sounds like Chooks is waving the white flag when it comes to, well, it sounds like it's going to be the same as it was last week. But I do know that this afternoon, George Pickens talked. We might need to hit on that. So
sure.
why don't you lead off with that one, Corey? Because that sounds like it's going to be a banger.
Yeah, I mean, I want to put it to bed quick because he said a lot of nothing, which of course he's going to. He's not going to say, yeah, I dislike it here, because that's not what he's about to do. And he doesn't dislike here, I don't think. And today, George Pickens he kind of played off what he did, saying, I don't really mix social media and football, which I found a pretty interesting comment.
Yeah.
I gotta move over. George seemed okay today. Like, he didn't seem mad or anything. He didn't seem like, oh, I have to go talk to these clowns again. Like, he just seemed like he was in an okay mood. Like, I don't think he was doing a laborious service today, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like, Chris knows how this goes. When the locker room opens, some people tend to stand just right by the backdrop that's in the locker room, where you see like the Steelers logo and I think it's PNC Bank or whatever. And some people will literally just wait for players to walk over there and start talking to them. It's kind of fascinating how that works.
Yeah.
Today was the case because Kenny Pickett is a Wednesday talker, right? The quarterback talks Wednesdays, and Kenny did talk today, but George Pickens came right over to the backdrop first, and like the first minute that the locker room opened. So either number one, a PR staffer told him, hey man, you're going to clear this. Or number two, George took it upon himself to go, I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to go clear my name, and I'm going to go talk to them. Because, Chris, you know this, George doesn't just do that. He doesn't just waltz over to the media and start talking to us.
No, he doesn't.
He just doesn't do it. So today was the day he did it. So again, one of two things. He was told, hey man, you got to go clear this. Or number two, he felt it apropos to take the initiative himself to come clear the air.
Yeah.
And he said a whole lot of nothing. Again, he said, I separate football from social media. I was just cleaning my profile off.
What was the thing about like when he was asked about like deleting all the Steelers stuff? He's like, I'm just clearing my page.
Like, yeah, that's okay. Hey, you know what? That's probably BS, but hey, you know what?
Yeah.
If that's what he wants to say, then fine. And then you know what? Believe it or not, we did talk a little football with him. Because he's a really good wide receiver and he's one of the top options on this team. Yeah. And I asked him 2 football related questions about, what were the downfield opportunities? How has Deontay affected his return? And he said pretty good stuff there. So I think George's demeanor's fine. I don't think he's mad. I don't think he's, ready to leave Pittsburgh tomorrow or anything. So I think we can officially, since George Pickens now cleared the air, in his words, we can kind of put that to bed a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, George was he was gonna talk eventually, but it is kind of interesting that it set itself up like that. That George immediately goes over to the podium there and talks, and that you're right. That's not normal. Now George doesn't often turn away interview requests or anything like that. First off, he's got to be in the locker room. Sometimes he's just not in there. Now, that's not like, oh, George is the only guy who never goes in there. Sometimes it's a number of different things.
It's a veteran thing too, by the way.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes he's got to go to the tub. He's got to go to the training room. He's got to go get looked at.
There's a whole bunch of different variables that play a role in that. So it's not like, oh, George never goes in the locker room because they don't want to talk. So no, that's not a thing. That's not a thing, to quote Ross from Friends. But
rest in peace. Rest in peace, Matthew.
So sad, man. Yeah. That was like my show growing up. Like for real. Like
Friends.
I'm a little young. Like I'm not like. Yeah, I don't know, but that was still my show.
Seinfeld's the greatest sitcom of all time, but I'll give Friends its respect.
Disagree.
Anyway,
but no. So like I'm just saying, like anytime George is at a stall and somebody asks him to interview, he usually like all the time says yes. It's got to be like a no, like I gotta go run, I gotta go do this. It's always something else. It's not just a flat out no, I don't feel like talking.
Jimmy Dean says, will they target George 13 times this week? I was saying as we left the locker room, it would be so funny if George got targeted like 4 times and had like 2 catches for 10 yards on Sunday. Like it would just be the funniest thing, because then people would be like, oh no, they don't like him, or like he's not like it would become a huger narrative than it already isn't, I guess.
Yeah.
It would just be the funniest thing if that happened,
I think what happens is, when you have like I don't necessarily want to call Deontay and George like a 2-headed monster, but when you have 2 guys that are kind of 1A, 1B in whatever way you want to kind of view it, because obviously Deontay is more the possession guy, George is more of the big play guy, and so they're kind of 1A and 1B in that sense. This isn't like Antonio Brown and then everybody else,
No.
Whenever it's like that, there are going to be swings from week to week. Sometimes defenses are going to focus more on, okay, we can't let Deontay get open, because the fact of the matter is that he gets open all the time. So they'll double him. Well, guess what? When you double him, you can't also double George, because if you double 2 different guys, literally everybody else is going to be open.
Right.
So they can really only choose to double one guy at a time. And so when that happens, obviously that it's then, upon Matt Canada and Kenny to see, okay, they're doubling Deontay this week, so now we might have to ride with George. That's happened in the past. Here recently, George has been kind of locked down by defenses, and it's freed up Deontay. So it wouldn't shock me at all as if this Sunday, now George is the guy. Or if it doesn't happen this Sunday, it's next Sunday or whenever it is, that all of a sudden George is the one catching 7 or 8 passes and Deontay only catches 2 for 8 yards.
Yep.
It wouldn't shock me, because that's kind of the way it goes when you have this 1A, 1B dynamic on the offense.
Brent asked, do the Steelers have someone help with PR when something like this happens? They have several people that will help handle these kind of situations. They have several people, including Burt Lawton, of course, the head of PR essentially here. for the Steelers. There's several. There's what, 1, 2, 3. I got 5 right off the top of my head.
Last year, I remember
and that includes
4.
interns. And that includes interns.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So there are several people. Randy asks, is Matt Canada going to continue to work from the sideline? Yes, he is.
Yes.
All indications are pointing, and Mike Tomlin said, yeah, that's a thing we're going to stick with, that Matt Canada's going to be on the sideline. Now, Deontay Johnson talked about it. Kenny Pickett talked about it in brief today, and everybody's pretty much saying the same thing. The biggest thing is that it helps communication, and it's not just Matt Canada on the headset and then communicating to Kenny Pickett and the assistant coaches. It is literally any player can go up to Matt Canada and say, hey, I see this, I think this. And Matt Canada can get direct input from the players. And that's something that's, obviously pretty good. Joe asked about Minka. The injury report will dictate today.
Yeah.
You'll have to take a look at the injury report. It's obviously only Wednesday, so Minka will have at least 2 more practices to get under his belt after today. And Mike Tomlin said Tuesday that it sounds like at least Minka's going to ramp up towards the end of the weekend. So, again, the practice report will dictate today. We did not get to speak to Minka Fitzpatrick after practice to, gauge his status or anything like that on record. So we're gonna have to wait for the injury report. Hopefully, if it dropped in the show, that'd be kind of nice from a newsworthy standpoint. But yeah, I mean,
I haven't seen one yet. I was just checking to see. I showed everybody the notification. By the way, notifications come through when we put stuff in our Steelers feed. You guys get notified. So obviously Kenny talked today too. So what was kind of some of the highlights from what Kenny talked about?
The Steelers want to see more of what they did Thursday. That's the one sentence summons. They want to see 166 yards on the ground. They want to see results that lead to what the Steelers were able to do offensively. Now, keep in mind too, if George Pickens gets a second foot down like he should have, it's another touchdown for this offense, and they score 27 and not 20. So they felt good about what they did on offense. And obviously there was a correlation to having Broderick Jones onto the field in some degree. But I think Kenny Pickett wants to see this again. He wants to see consistency. He talked about how there's been flashes of consistency, the Rams game being one, this game being another. He called it spurts of consistency. And it has to be more than spurts. And he's right. Kenny didn't say anything really overbearing today, anything shocking.
Usually doesn't.
No. So a lot more of what we already know, and what Kenny's talked about and what Matt Canada has talked about. They want to put the pieces together, and they want to put the pieces together consistently. Jerry asked about Anthony McFarland, and if you see my laptop move, it's because it's resting on my knee. This is as jank of a setup as we get, but got to make the show happen. Is Anthony McFarland coming back? It sounds like he is. I talked to him today before practice. He said he would have been good enough to play against Jacksonville and Tennessee. His knee's feeling good, so
that's good.
Activated off IR. All indications are pointing that Anthony McFarland is going to be available for Sunday. But again, with Kenny Pickett, really nothing too insane to report over here as far as today. Again, he said they want to see more of what they did Thursday on a consistent basis. Now, my story today on DKPittsburghSports.com is going to focus on Kenny's success in play action and RPO. To kind of put a small summary on it, he's really good in play action and RPO this year. Way better than last year on both splits. And this running game, if it can get going like it did Thursday, it's only going to open up more for the Steelers offense. And Kenny has completed a lot more. I think he's 20 of 27 throwing out a play action.
Yeah.
So
it's been good.
Really impressive.
Yeah. It's been good. Swan asked what the roster. You got a roster for McFarland. It was already done when they put
Holcomb
on IR. So it was just a swap of Holcomb goes on IR, and now that made the room for room for McFarland. I got somebody asking for some clarification. By the way, if you haven't seen or read my Chalk Talk piece on Joey Porter Jr., I went in depth on the things that are really looking good, how he's already kind of looking like a shutdown corner, how the Steelers are already kind of giving him the freedom of an actual shutdown corner, getting to shadow guys. And AJ asked, may Chris explain his JPJ Mighty Ducks reference? Does it refer only to reaction and coverage or also tackling? And so, by the way, the reference I made was when Coach Orion and D3 the Mighty Ducks keeps telling Charlie, make the first move, Conway. And so that was kind of, and so that was referring to what Joey does in coverage. So there's a lot of times where, receivers will do a number of different things to try to get open. Obviously, sometimes they'll just use their flat out speed. I'm going to run past you. They'll try a jab step. They'll try a head fake. They'll try any little thing, on a double move or something at the release of the route to try to get open, gain separation. And Joey is really great at being patient, not falling for this one jab step, this one head fake, this move or that move. He's really good at staying patient and not just reacting to every little move the receiver gives. And too many corners, especially rookie corners, do that. They really do just react too often. And Joey's just like, no, I'm going to stay over the top of you. And then if you go back underneath, I'm going to trust my length to be able to make up for any kind of lost space, which he does very well. So it really is a whole, like, make the first move. I'm not going to fall for, any little thing that you do. And so it is thank you, Brent. I appreciate you with the feedback, but that's pretty much what that was. When it comes to the tackling is a whole nother thing. I think I kind of went, went pretty deep into the tackling issues, but
Ryan asked, can Carlton Carrington play wide receiver? Man, what can't that kid do right now? How about that performance? Triple-double in his Pitt debut in basketball. College basketball's back. I'm really pumped about that.
Yep.
Chris, as you know, there is a certain reporter on the Steelers beat that is a big Michigan State fan.
Oh, yeah.
So, of course,
huge.
The day after Michigan State falls to their season opener to James Madison.
What's the over-under that person is wearing Michigan State anything? Like how many days per week? 2, 3?
Out of 7?
I would just say, like, okay, so you got Monday.
Or on the working days. On the
working days. But you got 5 days a week.
I think it's an over 2.5 generally. I think it's usually 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
Today he wasn't.
Today
he wasn't.
It's always kind of a shock when he's not. Because I swear, training camp, it was like every single day, it was just like, how much Michigan State stuff do you have, man?
Well, Michigan State plays Ohio State in football, and then the Spartans lost to James Madison to open the season. So, I keep quiet too. If Syracuse did something similar, which Cuse at Pitt on Saturday, which means, or Pitt at Cuse, which is in the Bronx, Yankee Stadium, which means Chris is solo Friday. So you won't have me for the whole show, not just 10, 15 minutes of it like you had today. As a result of the Steelers locker room closing at around 3:00 today. Busy week over here. Tomorrow's coordinator Thursday, of course, Matt Canada and Terrell Austin. As of right now, I feel like I'm going to spend more time at Terrell Austin just because you have a green dot inside linebacker to replace and what moving pieces, and is Minka coming back? So there's a lot going on there. No Bronx Corey. In fact, it'll be Newark Corey. I'm staying in New Jersey and then taking the rail over to the Bronx. So
the Bronx.
I'll make that work. On Friday while Chris has you all taken care of. You want to wrap up with a couple of final thoughts here, Chris?
Oh, let's see. Final thought for today. I would really just be patient with this whole George Pickens stuff, man. There are, we do live in a day and age where, everybody kind of lives under this instant gratification thing. And I think everybody, because of it, Brent, appreciate you gifting five memberships, man. Take advantage of those when those guys hand them out, man. Take advantage of them. If your name isn't green in the chat, make it green by accepting one of those memberships.
For sure.
Brent, appreciate you doing that. But just be patient with this whole George Pickens stuff. Sometimes we have knee-jerk reaction after knee-jerk reaction after knee-jerk reaction to literally everything that's pumped out there. And, I think one of the great things that you can learn from this organization, even if it's sometimes to their detriment, this organization, the Steelers franchise, does not flap in the wind. They don't have knee-jerk reaction after knee-jerk reaction. Sometimes they actually make decisions a little bit too slow. And I think, to use some biblical wisdom here, quick to listen, slow to speak type thing. It's kind of the same thing. You kind of want to just, take a little while before you come to some sort of final judgment or on a player, on a coach, whatever it is. I can be critical of Matt Canada because he's now in his third season and the offense still sucks. So that's a long enough time to try to be like, okay, they need to change there. But a couple of different things here and there where George has shown frustration over, I'm not getting the ball here when I think I'm open. I've played receiver. I've been frustration. Granted, high school was my highest level there, so I'm not pretending to be some sort of former player here.
Get Halicke the ball, man.
But no, I'm just saying, like I understand the frustration of being like, I was wide open, I keep getting open, I'm not getting the ball. I understand the frustration, and when you're a player like George who wants to be a difference maker, as Mike Tomlin says, he's going to be frustrated whenever he's like, I can make plays and I'm not getting the ball. That's a good thing. Now, I might handle a little bit better than he is, but I'm also 36 years old and he's not. He's still pretty young. So I would give it some time before everybody jumps off a bridge when it comes to this George Pickens stuff. That's my final thought for the day.
That's well said. My final thought is I need to get out of here and get ready for the injury report. There's mine. So Matt Canada, Terrell Austin tomorrow. As is the norm on Thursday here on the South Side.
And I think with what Evan points out, I think that really is the only question that Canada needs to be asked. Ask Canada if he'll be on the sideline again. Now, we know that he'll be on the sideline because Mike Tomlin said it, but I think it would just kind of be like, okay, maybe the good question there is, how was it for you? Because like for your entire time as an offensive coordinator, not just in Pittsburgh, but everywhere you've been in the booth. How was it different for you?
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious to hear that. For sure.
Lifted asked the Steelers beat the Packers this weekend. Here's my spoiler, I guess. Yes, I think the Steelers absolutely beat the Packers this weekend. I don't trust
official
Jordan
prediction
Love.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't trust Jordan Love to play quarterback. I just don't. So we'll leave it at that. For now, we're going to get out of here. So, injury report coming soon. DK and Ramon coming at 4. So stay tuned to DK Pittsburgh Sports here on YouTube live for that. Of course, remember to bookmark the DKPittsburghSports.com Steelers feed. Where you can find all of the news that I report, that DK reports, all of the analysis from Chris and Matt Williamson and Ramon Foster when it comes to this football team. I know there's a lot that is being discussed right now off the field, but there's a ton to go on the field as well, and we're here for all of that. So, no, Joe, thank you. As Joe and Mr. Nick of Time both put in the chat, thank you all for tuning in on a Wednesday. But for now, he's Chris and I'm Corey. I'm going to start my car, get the air conditioning on. This has been the Southside Beat. Cheers, everybody. See ya.